I'm very excited about our next guest. It is Wednesday, and on Wednesdays, not every Wednesday because he's so busy and he likes to talk to so many people under the sun. There are times where he carves some time out for his old friend Ariel. We used to do this on a weekly basis. Now we get to do it on a monthly or so basis. I can't wait to get Chael's thoughts on what transpired this weekend, in particular because of his thoughts going into the event. I'll get to that in a moment. For now, though, let us say hello to our old friend Chael. You know, this is very exciting. I noticed that you've changed the camera angle. You're a little bit tighter these days. I thought you were giving us the crappy angle, and I saw you doing other interviews with the better angle, but this is the angle that I've been seeing. I like this upgrade.
Observant. Yeah. I appreciate that of you. Yes, sets in the studios are important, right? And I appreciate the feedback. You never know if you get it right. You're always looking to improve. So thank you. I think you're the first one to actually notice.
Oh, I noticed. Yes. I saw one where you were like super close. That was a little too close for comfort. New studio, new set. What are we doing? New camera? This is like a very filmy look. What do we got here?
Boring topic. Back to the news. What did you want to talk about, the boxing event? Because that's what I want to get into. Is that the one that we're still talking about?
Okay, so this is what I love so much about it. There were so many haters. There were so many detractors. There were so many critics. There were so many people poo-pooing this event. And as is often the case, you are a thought leader. You're ahead of the curve. You are one of the very few that not only celebrated the event and thought Francis was going to shock the world. You were one of the few that put your reputation on the line and said, this is an incredible stuff, incredible business, incredible theater, and he is actually going to do it. For those that don't know what I'm talking about, here's Chael back in July when the fight was announced, celebrating how great this was and putting his reputation on the line, saying that Francis is going to shock the world in this mega event. Take a look at this.
I will stand by this is the most lopsided sporting event, right? You're taking, just so you guys understand, you're taking LeBron, Colby, rest his soul. You're taking the rest of the team. You're taking Phil Jackson. You're taking the great. You're taking the Lakers. They're great. And you're putting them against Manning and the Patriots, but you're doing it in football rules. That's exactly what you're doing here. That is ridiculous from a competitive standpoint. That is ridiculous. To the point that what I just laid out for you has never even been attempted. It's ridiculous. Well, that's what's happening here. When I call it lopsided, that is exactly what's happening here.
Okay, I have to apologize. I think I had the wrong clip there. That's you actually shitting on the event and the fight. So maybe I got bad intel. Here you go. Here's the crow, Chael. Here's the crow. I wanted to feed it to you. I'm going to feed it to the camera right here. The crow, if you'd like to eat it. Here it is, Chael, eating the crow from Saturday. Here it is. Open big, Chael. Here it comes. The plane. There it is.
There he
Chael.
is.
Come on, Chael. We shocked the world.
Well,
please, apologize.
Ariel.
Apologize.
Ariel, there will be no apology. You must understand. Let's tell the story the way that it happened. This was an incredibly big surprise. Like, this was an incredible performance by Francis. And if I was to put myself in his shoes or just other things that I've observed, while you talk about you've got thick skin or ice running through your veins, other people can't affect you. You're a human being. Sure that they could get in. I mean, there was nobody that believed that Francis could do well, but that wasn't a joke. I mean, that was Tyson Fury himself. That was John Fury himself. They weren't attempting to hype or build a fight. This was one of those situations where, and I do maintain this was the biggest mismatched sporting event of my lifetime. But Ariel, that's what made this one of the great sporting events of my lifetime. And as I hear people talk about it and come out the backside, there is always a confusion. There's a confusion sometimes where somebody's talking about the competition itself, or they're talking about the spectacle and the night of business. And that is a split decision. I've never personally lived through a sporting event. I've heard about it. I heard the Miracle on Ice was like this, but I didn't live through it, where the buzz and the excitement, the celebration, appreciation, the headlines are more bountiful about the event after the event. And I bring that to you because, and your viewers know this to be true, though they will deny it today, they were not on Friday night having a hard time sleeping with excitement. They did not wake up early high on life because they were thrilled for a sporting event. They were not invited between 3 different parties where people were having them over. They were not at the water cooler the night before and trading around tickets. This, from a business standpoint and the pay-per-view numbers, it bombed. But it did what people thought that it would do. It wasn't expected to be a great event. It turned out to be wildly competitive, and it was incredible. That's the accurate story. And if you want to heap praise on Francis and wonder if I'll contribute, of course I do. I was blown away. I was blown away by it.
Can you say now, though, in retrospect, and I know hindsight is 2020, that the decision to leave the UFC, the decision to sign with PFL, who allowed him to fight in boxing, to go after the Tyson Fury fight, to have this fight where he had it, on the night that he had it, all these things over the past year that so many people, including yourself, criticized him heavily for, can you now admit that he was right and everyone else was wrong?
No. But if he said he was, I would. If he came in and said, hey, Ariel, in this amount of time that I've set out, which was almost 2 years, I mean, it was 3 months shy of 2 years, so a year and 9 months. In that amount of time, statistically speaking, I would have had 4 fights within the UFC. Shave one off, I would have had 5 fights. Let's call it 4 with my new participation since I was champion. If I was to look at the number in terms of dollars, that would have been larger than what I got against Fury. It's one of those things. But if he came out and said, I don't care about the money, it was about competition, it was about proving something and living a dream, then I would fully listen to him.
He did say that.
I would always respect somebody.
He did say that. It was about the respect.
I haven't heard him say it. If he came out and said that it was about competition, which so rare times it is in our sport, sadly, I would love that. I will always put a competitor first. But I'm only pushing back on you for one reason, Ariel, and it's not to put a mirror in front of myself or my resistance to do so. The way that you're speaking is putting out a tone that if other fighters hear, I can do this to get to that. Look, this was a real rare thing. First off, it was not a great night of business. And second off, you had an entity, not a promoter, not a district, nothing unique with our sport. You had an entity who going into it was willing to lose. So it's a unique spot where did everything get played out and he pulled something off? I would not say anything negative about Francis or what he did. I'm part of the celebration party. But your message that this was a financial win, they're going to do it again. Just look, come on, man, you're not right.
Financial win for who? For Francis, yes. Let's say he made in the 10 to 20 million range, right, as has been reported. His last fight was $600K.
No. Well, hold on. Hold on. Time out. No, you just lied. You just lied.
I did not.
There's nobody. You lied. Stop. There's nobody that is. You just pulled me up on screen, which I was the internet. Pull that up. There's nobody, including a terrible dirt sheet, that has said 10 to 20 million.
Yeah.
Not to mention, how awful would they be? I mean, that's a vast prediction. That's 10 to 20 million is a 100% gap. 1 million to 1.5 is what a professional would do. And Ariel, in all fairness, he got $10 million. He's always said $10 million. No one's predicted 20 million. The pay-per-view bomb. Don't come out and lie. 10 million is a beautiful number. Tell the truth.
First of all, how do you know the pay-per-view bombed? A. Who's reporting that? How do you know?
Ariel, what do you mean? How do I know?
And exactly.
What do you mean?
What do you mean? How do I know about the 10 to 20 million? I'll play that same game too. You think I'm pulling shit out of my hat?
No. It's not a matter of that.
It is a matter of that. Yes, it is.
You said no, it's not. Your words are what I'm challenging. You're the one that lied. And I said to you, and I'm quoting you. You said it's been reported.
Yeah.
You
on
could bring
show.
up dog crap. You could bring up dog crap off the internet. I'll accept it. Pull it up. It's not been reported.
On this
you
show.
Made that up or you misspoke.
On this show.
You said those
10
words.
to 20 million on this show. Now I'm asking you. Now, what? Am I not a source? Can I not be a source?
You said it's been reported.
On this show.
Said it's been reported. By who?
Me. The greatest of all time. What are you talking about? I got
10
13.
to 20 million?
Yes.
You're like one of those weirdos that tell us dinosaurs lived between 10 million and 100 million years ago. You can't give yourself a gap of 100%.
Well, it depends on the pay-per-view. It depends on the pay-per-view.
Let me play the same game, and let me call myself breaking news. Let me play the same game. Francis made between no money and infinite money fighting Fury.
What are you talking about?
Oh, Chael, you should be reporter of the year.
I have 13 trophies that say I'm the best reporter in this game. And so let me ask you, the reason why it's 10 to 20.
Between 10 and 20 million.
Because of the pay-per-view cut. The pay-per-view cut. And that's why I'm asking you about the pay-per-view numbers that you say they bombed. If they did bomb, then it's 11. If they didn't bomb, maybe it's 15. So then tell me, I gave you my source. Me. Now you tell me your source.
No, I called you out and you got caught lying.
I didn't get caught.
Just happened.
Who's your source on the pay-per-view?
You got caught lying.
Who's your source on the pay-per-view?
Secondly, Mr. Liar, for that to be a massive win, you know he got 10 million to show, and you know that full well. So you're discussing he could have got another 10 million in bonus point. I'm on Francis's side. I don't like how you're painting this picture.
Pay-per-view.
I'm attacking you saying things that aren't true. You're saying that there's up to a $10 million bonus.
Pay-per-view points. What don't you understand about pay-per-view points?
Ariel,
Jesus Christ.
Ariel, I'll make a point here as somebody in this space that's made money in the space. So allow me to at least tell you this before you make things up. You're telling your audience that there was a potential 10, anywhere in between, potential 10 million in pay-per-view points. The size of that pay-per-view era would be record-setting. And let me just tell you something. History matters. There's not a pay-per-view, whether it was wrestling, whether it was motocross, whether it was a concert, whether it was fighting. There's not a pay-per-view in history that is broken into the top 10, which this would have to do, that comes on at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. In all fairness, I work for the company that put this out. I plan to watch the fight. I thought it was coming on at 7 p.m., like a regular time. I was in a text message with Kevin Iole on unrelated matters when he told me I got to go. The fight's coming on.
No.
I mean, don't pretend.
In a million years, why would a fight in Saudi Arabia happen at 7 p.m. Pacific time? What are you talking about?
You know where Abu Dhabi is?
Yes, I'm aware of where Abu Dhabi is, yes.
Did you watch Volkanovski versus Islam a week before?
Yes, also happened in the middle of the day.
Well, nobody knows. See, that's the problem. We're debating it.
It happened at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific. What are you talking about? You're talking.
I'm very happy for that financial win, but it's important that you understand the biggest lie that I lived through, right? I hear the term fake news in 2016. I didn't believe that was true. I thought that was just something you say. I lived through Mayweather-McGregor, where I stood on the floor of the arena and was instructed to tell the world it was sold out, and I could look, and there was thousands.
Yes, I saw that too.
But I bring it to you because those two wanted to rematch. Nobody wanted the rematch. And so it's one of these situations where when you talk about if you're coming from a competitive standpoint, I will jump in and celebrate. It was incredible, Ariel. I would love to have been in those shoes and to have that kind of a celebratory moment. If you're talking about from a business standpoint, for you to come out and pretend that just in bonus money, a guy got handed to, I mean, come on, Ariel.
It's so funny how you're spinning this, because even if it is 10 million, even if the pay-per-view truly did bomb and it is 10 million, that's still what? 15x what he made in his last UFC fight. And then here's the best part. People like you are saying, but it's not as much as what he would have made in the 3 fights prior. Of course, ignoring the fact that he tore his ACL and couldn't fight. Fine. What do you think he's going to make in his next fight, Chael? You think he'll make 10 to 20 million for the next one? Or will it maybe be 30 to 40 million for his next one? What do you think he's going to make? Like, how can you continue? I saw you talk to MMA Junkie on Monday. You said he still fumbled the bag. Is that true? That was a misquote.
It's very hard.
It's a misquote, right?
It's very hard, Ariel. I don't think that you're this dumb. I think you're making TV.
No.
But it gets my sweat going. No, you're going to let me talk. When you come out and say stupid and reckless things, and you have people that are relying on you, you're going to let me talk. So you came out and you want to make believe the 10 million. My problem with you saying that he made more in this than he made in all of his UFC fights, my problem is that you use the word made. If you were to be honest and you were to say he got, I'm with you. When it's a loss, right? When it's charity or somebody gives it away, it's very difficult to say that you made it. I share that with you because you're asking me about his next fight. Why would you have that conversation? You know full well he has a contract. So as far as what he's going to make in his next fight, he already has a contract. This isn't a discussion, but it's people like you that act like it should be. It's already done. That's what we did. Remember that day we gave you a $2 million signing bonus? Remember that day we gave you an opportunity to go over and do the Fury fight? It's because we wanted something back. We have there's no discussion on what the next fight is. Ariel, do you want to know why, from a pay-per-view standpoint, Fury versus Ngannou didn't work? Turned out to be this incredible sporting event. You and I have more of a passion. I mean, look at us arguing, we're friends. But that's because it was so great. How rare, right? But do you want to know, if we were to back up, why it didn't do well on pay-per-view? Because that should be what you're really asking. That would be the exciting thing. Would you like me to answer it, Ariel?
Sure.
I can't tell if this is just a fiction show. I'll play it long. 10 and 20 million.
No, but I have a follow-up about what you just said before. But fine, for now, yes. Why?
It's super important that you understand this. Promoters miss this all the time. There's 5 guys in the world that know how to make money in fighting, but it's important that you get that, because there's a major lesson here that somebody could look at and observe. The reason this didn't, you have the UFC heavyweight champion who never lost his belt, at least not competitively, versus the biggest star in all of boxing. Any weight class, any way you want to do it. Nobody moves the needle. Like, why did that not work? The answer is significance. That's the answer, but it's important that you get this. There wasn't a significance. Win or lose, Francis, there's no rematch. Every time you have somebody, a Mayweather, a De La Hoya, Mike Tyson, the announcers will always, they'll let that part of the contract out. Should he lose, there's an automatic rematch clause. That was the problem with Francis. It's why promoters won't do a one-off. It's why a promoter didn't do this. It was done by an entity. But it's important that you understand that. Francis, win or lose, goes back to MMA. Win or lose, Tyson Fury fights that fat bald guy in the front row on December 23rd. So there wasn't a significance. It's important that you get that, because when you talk about his next fight, that won't be signed by a Bob Arum or an Eddie Hearn, because they can't. Those guys sign a minimum of 3-fight deals, because if you win, I need to know I've got you down the road. If you lose, I can't guarantee you a fortune. You're 0-1 right now with a lot of buzz. If you become 0-2, there's no buzz. We got 3 fights. We got Joshua, we got Fury, we got Wilder. If I don't have you both locked up, I'm not going to do the match. That's the thing that you miss. That's where free agency is a problem. Deontay and Francis could be made right now. That would be a massive event. But when you're selling the story of the event, you're doing it just because. You're doing it just to see. You're doing it just so we know. You're not doing it in something that will lead to something else, because you don't have them on a multi-fight contract. That's the part of the business everybody, including yourself, misses time and time again. These deals aren't one-offs. They're 3-offs. And you're not going to get a guy to sign a contract for the next fight and the next one, promising you if there's not an escalation. And you can't promise too big of an escalation because you don't know if he's going to win the previous one. It gets complicated, and you don't understand that.
And here's the part that you don't understand. You keep talking about the entity. It's right in your face, and you're blowing right by it. You're applying 2010 rules, 2000 rules to 2023. These are new rules. These are Saudi Arabia rules. They don't play by the same rules that you're used to. They don't play by the same rules as Eddie Hearn and Bob Arum. They could do whatever the fuck they want. They just paid, and to your point, probably lost a lot of money, right, to bring in all these guys to put on this event. It was the Super Bowl on steroids, and they'll do it again. And they'll do it again, and they're doing it this weekend with WWE, and they'll do it with Fury Usyk, and they'll do it with the next Francis Ngannou fight. And so you're applying these old rules, 3 fights. I think you were referring to PFL when you said they. The chairman and founder of the PFL, Don Davis, was on this show on Monday. You need to start watching this show more. He said, and I quote, "We get him either in March or December. His next fight doesn't have to be in PFL. His next fight could be back in Riyadh against Deontay Wilder or in Africa against Joshua. What are you talking about? He is going to make 20 to 30 to 40 million in his next fight. He made 10 to 20 in this last one, and one day he'll prove me right." So what are you saying? Just those 2 numbers together are more than what he would have made with the UFC. And oh, by the way, if he was booked to fight John Jones in Madison Square Garden, if he would have taken that fight, the fight wouldn't even be happening. They would have done the same thing that they did to Stipe. Hey, we're not going to put you in an interim fight. We don't want to insult you with our bullshit interim titles. So we're going to book Aspinall and Pavlovich on 2 weeks' notice because John Jones is out for a year. So how could you now say, knowing how this whole story played out, that this guy made a mistake, that he fumbled the bag, that free agency doesn't work? Now, does it work for everyone? No, it doesn't. I said at the beginning of my show, it does not work for everyone. If you're a guy in the UFC, look, if you're Sean Strickland, stay in the UFC. But to say with Saudi Arabia money involved and them having an offer on the table right now for him to fight in March, come on. You're applying old rules to the new game, Chael. It's right there. The entity that you're speaking of is right there in front of you. They don't play by the same rules as everyone else.
There's not a word of what you just said with the tone and narrative that you wanted to be interpreted that was correct.
What?
Your message since I've got on here today, Ariel, your message has been that this is good business, which would seep into somebody else's mind. If some other fighter attempted to do this, they need to know the dangers of being a lone wolf. And that is my message. I'm not painted against Francis or what he did. I'm painted against the narrative. It's very tough. You're talking about Saudi Arabia and it's this one-off, and then you mentioned they're going to do the WWE and they're going to do Usyk. I mean, it's one of these things. I thought we were talking about Francis. I thought they were going to book him and have him do something. Yeah. And either way, yes, if they wanted to do it, they wanted to put the money on. But if we're discussing things that lose, that would be like you becoming a financial advisor and then saying, just go play the lottery. Look at this guy. He won. I can't believe you're staying in college and reading these books. I can't believe you're investing into a 401k. Why do you even know what a Roth is? You go play the lottery. That's your message. I'm trying to speak a little bit clearer, and I'm trying to let people know in terms of the norms, which were created before you and I. We didn't change them. Created before you and I. One thing that the audience doesn't understand is promoters sign you to a minimum of 3 fights. And if your title fight is on the third fight, it's not happening unless you do an extension. But there's a relevance, and there's a reason for that. There's a reason the WBC sanctioned that fight, but wouldn't put up Fury's belt. They couldn't put it around Francis, who they didn't have under contract. It's a very standard of the industry. And to look at that fight, which is one of the great sporting events I've ever had the privilege of seeing, more hype after than any sport I've ever seen, Ariel. That's a big deal. And to know that it lost money the day of, you got to look at that and try to figure out why, if you're trying to learn about the sport.
Which sport are we talking about? Because I know more about boxing than you do, because Devin Haney was a champion with Top Rank and left to go to Matchroom just now, and he's fighting on December 9th against Regis Prograis. So you're trying to explain to me about a sport that I actually know more than you. MMA, you can try to like bully me into this type of thing, but I actually know more than you in this world, Chael. I really do. And I will tell you once again that we are not saying on this program that every fighter should play by these rules, but we have the benefit of hindsight. We know how the Francis story played out. You were one of the guys who was saying this was a mistake. You turned the gun on the promotion. You screwed up, right? You've said that. But now we know how it played out. He rolled the dice and he won. Should Sean O'Malley do it? Probably not. Should Sean Strickland do it? Probably not. But this one lone wolf did it and won. So why can't we say that it worked out for him? I'm not talking about did it work out for Top Rank or Saudi. Francis Ngannou's a winner. Financial winner. Your words. Financial winner. He financially won in a massive way, and he's about to win even more. Now, that's my point. That's the point. Can you not concede that he financially won in this arrangement? Now that we saw the whole story play out, the whole arc.
Not only is it not your point, not only are you shifting, quiet, not only are you shifting to try to fit the narrative, Ariel, had it been your point, which it absolutely was not, had it been your point, you would have had this victory party 2 months ago when it got announced. You would have had this victory party when it got signed.
I did that.
You would and I would have been making the show the day that he had it. What we're talking about in the celebration of Francis, who is owed his due, we're talking about a celebration about the competitiveness. We're trying to figure out how we shock the world. We're trying to figure out what training it is. We're trying to the problems with boxing. You know, I got to give Fury credit. There is nothing worse from a spirit of sportsmanship. It's very good for business, right? When you're in the fight business, never stop talking, never stop making excuses, ever. But from a sportsmanship, that's very turned off. It was great by Fury. I was hoping that Fury in the moment would have called it out for what it was. Fury very clearly and his father very clearly did not know if they won. And if they had to bet, they were thinking it went the other way. I had hoped that Fury would have actually said that in the microphone and given Francis his due. Let's set that aside. First off, Fury had his bell rung. He'd been down on the canvas. He just got exhausted, worked his ass off. It was super close. And he's now got to go into business with Usyk. So I can give Fury a little bit of wiggle room here. But I do think that it matters when you go over to Francis. He didn't call for the rematch. He didn't call for the rematch with Fury. Even KSI a week earlier knew to call for the rematch. And he lets Usyk into the ring, and Usyk disrespects him. Usyk comes in and he tries to say that Fury was coasting. That's the part that has always bothered me about sports from a negative standpoint that I appreciate that Fury didn't do. People have tried to say he was hurt. Fury has stopped them and said, no, I wasn't. They tried to say you didn't prepare. He said, stop. I prepared longer for this fight than ever. That's the hardest opponent I've had in 10 years. I appreciate those things from Tyson. But then I think that we should be looking into and trying to figure out what did make it so hard. Why have we always believed you got to be a second-generation boxer to make it to the highest levels? Why do we believe to make Olympic teams you've got to be a teenager? It turns out you can be a 37-year-old with bad leg that only trained for a couple of years. I mean, it's a really fascinating thing. And I don't know why you keep trying to change the story and make it ugly about money. Francis had the money. That's not the story here. Had Francis gone down in the first round where the result would have been the same, he would have lost. He'd still be 0-1 and not boxing in his next match. Be the same, but he didn't do that. He went out there and competed. He tried to bring honor to himself. He tried to show that this dream could come true. That's the story of this fight. Your message is to try to tell other fighters and hedge them into going into that direction. Ariel, it's not true. It's not what you mean. You've stumbled over your own words here multiple times.
I said it at the beginning of the show.
From a competitive standpoint, he exceeded expectations. From a financial standpoint, he met expectations. This was a loss.
Again, you're missing the greater point. If he would have gone knocked out in the first round, you would be right. Okay, you bet on yourself. Forget the PFL deal. Forget the Tyson Fury fight that no one thought you could get.
No, you'd be the one that's right.
But now,
you'd be the one that's right.
Now he's going to get a massive deal. Now you've got Eddie Hearn on his knees begging for him to fight Anthony Joshua. Now you've got Turkey in Saudi Arabia saying, "I have an offer on the table." You think they want him back if he truly slipped on a banana peel on Saturday? No way do they want him back. You think PFL's trying to do a Deontay Wilder fight? No, they're having him fight Ante Delelli at the Hulu Theater in front of 6 people on ESPN Plus pay-per-view in front of 5 people. But now he's the most wanted man in combat sports because of what happened. That's what makes this a bigger deal financially. That's what makes this a success. How are you ignoring the what's to come? You're focusing on the storyline from May, June, and July. You're ignoring what's to come in 2024 for the most wanted man in combat sports. Why can't you concede that? Why can't you say that this man got it right? Why do you have to be such a company man all the time and say that anyone who walks away from the UFC is wrong? Why do you have to do that? Why?
My source that I'm going to quote for you is going to be you, okay? So 2 days ago, the most wanted man, right? The most wanted man in MMA, 2 days ago had his promoter, Don Davis, on your show.
Yes.
And Don said,
MMA promoter.
We don't have anything interesting for him right now in MMA. In fact, the only interesting thing for Francis right now in MMA is John Jones, who's with another company. So your most wanted man got pushed on your show by his boss. Then Eddie Hearn came onto your program, okay, citing you as the source. And Eddie Hearn floated an idea to the audience of Rumble in the Jungle Part 2 and Ngannou versus Joshua. We're even going to take it to Africa. That was the feeling out process. He did not get the response he was expecting and has already moved on from that idea. I get that this is sought after. I also like Francis a lot in 3 matches, but 3 specifically. None in MMA in terms of what can be done. I like him with Joshua, but he's not under contract with Eddie Hearn. So now you've got a whole other contract. Can you work that out and get a buyout clause? I like him against Fury.
He's under contract with no one.
But you stated the only one that can pull this off is Saudi Arabia. Meanwhile, Eddie Hearn lives in England and wants to take it to a different continent. So you're kind of going over
Fury's
yourself.
Not an Eddie Hearn guy.
Of course, you have Wilder. But Wilder is going to have a great misconception in terms of what he's worth if he's coming over to more of an MMA realm. And if you find a promoter that's willing to put Wilder and Fury together, it's going to be a very hard thing to find because you're talking sought after. Sought after means numbers. It means you got a lot of suitors at the table. I'm only sharing for you. You've really narrowed it down. By your own words, you had one place, which is Saudi Arabia. Now I'm attempting to explain to your audience who you daily mislead because you don't know any better. I'm here to smarten you. You don't have multiple suitors, but the reason is this. Multiple suitors operate on the same business model, which I must have you for 3 fights. Wilder and Francis aren't in a position to do that. I'm only sharing with your audience how rare this one thing was. You're taking them directions about the business you don't know.
You keep sticking to this 3 fights thing, and that's not true. Francis is his own promoter. He can co-promote with anyone. He has his own promotion that he could co-promote with. And to your point...
Can he co-promote with the UFC, Ariel? Does he co-promote with the UFC?
Yeah. Whose fault is that?
Yeah,
Whose fault is that? Whose fault is that? But now we're talking about MMA, and you keep saying that the 3 biggest fights for him...
When Eddie Hearn was on your show, did he say he wanted to co-promote with Francis?
Absolutely.
Ariel?
He knows that he has to. He knows
said
that.
Those words because I watched the interview. Actually, he did it. When Don Davis was on your show, did he mention co-promoting, Ariel?
Yes, he did. He mentioned co-promoting with the UFC, but he's probably smart enough to know that that will never happen. And to your point regarding... By the way, to your point about Don Davis is saying that the biggest fight in MMA for him is John Jones because he is so big. Because fighting some jabroni in PFL isn't big enough because he is such a big star. You don't have the biggest star on your roster. You don't have LeBron or Manning on your roster and have him fight some C-level fighter. That's because he is so big. So you keep talking... Chael, if he fights a boxer next in Saudi Arabia or Africa, he is not going to sign a 3-fight deal with Top Rank, with Eddie Hearn, with Queensberry. He's not going to do it. In fact, guess what? You know how I know that? Because he didn't sign a 3-fight deal with anyone to fight Tyson Fury, and he still got that fight done. Why didn't anyone make him sign a 3-fight deal? I don't know why you keep sticking to this 3-fight deal thing. He shocked the world by leaving the UFC. He shocked the world by getting the PFL deal. He shocked the world by getting the freedom of the Tyson Fury.
You don't know why
and now
I
he's
keep
going to
doing
shock
that?
the world again.
Harold, you don't know why I keep saying the 3-fight deal? You don't understand that I'm attempting to tell your audience who you mislead every day, including today, and it's by your ignorance. You're not like doing this out of fun. You don't know these things.
I do.
You don't understand that I'm trying to tell them, pick any promoter from the time they were born that they've heard about. You can even bring Don King in if you want to do me. You bring in any promoter that goes by the standard industry of boxing. They're going to have 3 fights. You keep bringing this one off. It's like tomorrow you're going to be screaming from the rooftops if Elon Musk announces he's going to start doing fighting, and whoever goes over there is going to be great. Like, if you're talking about doing losses, if you're talking about doing bad business, my mind doesn't even work that way. If you're talking about things that are not viable and sustainable, my mind doesn't even work that way. If you're talking about operating within the standards, how you could actually get Eddie Hearn to sign off on what he did, how you could actually get these things done by a standard industry. I mean, you came out, you tried to tell your audience that Francis is now a promoter. Really, Ariel? Why don't you tell our audience the address of that office so they can swing by? Why don't you give them the phone number to Francis's secretary so they can set up a lunch? What? Because he filled out a piece of paperwork and wrote promotions on it. I'm not turning on him. You're misleading, and you know it. You know there's not a production company. You know there's not cameras and lights. You know there's not distribution. You knew what you were saying. You lied to your own audience, and you got caught for the 4th time in 20 minutes.
How did I get caught? No, I don't appreciate you trying to spread this narrative. How did I lie? He is not signed to any promoter. Show me who was.
You said he is an ability through his promotion company to co-promote with anybody.
Yes.
That's a quote, Ariel, from you.
He did that on Saturday. We just saw it.
You ran back.
We just saw it on Saturday. Okay,
great. So you had Don Davis on, and you had Eddie Hearn on. There's only 5 guys out there that put on fights. You had 2 of them on Monday. Did either one of them say they would do that? You said yes a minute ago, and they didn't, you liar.
Do what? Do what? PFL.
Co-promote with them.
Yes, they did. They did.
You said they would do that, and they didn't.
They did. They did.
You were my source.
Don Davis said he would work.
I'm quoting you.
I feel like we're now going in circles here. Okay, let me ask you this. If Francis Ngannou fights in a boxing match next, does he have to sign with a promotion?
If he's going to do it by the standard.
No standard. No standard. Don't give me the standard bullshit.
Then no, of course he doesn't have to do it. No, John Jones doesn't have to fight. No.
Thank you.
Ariel, excuse me.
What? No, of course he doesn't. He doesn't. He gets to play by his own rules.
Rude. That is beyond rude to cut your guest off before he makes his point.
Oh, okay.
That is beyond rude to claim
calling
victory
me a liar
before a
4
point
times
was made.
What are you talking about?
How could you be right if a sentence wasn't completed?
You just said no.
That is a dirty move.
You just said no.
That is a dirty move by you.
Go ahead.
Can John Jones fight somewhere else in MMA aside from the UFC next? The answer is yes. Yes, he can. You're, of course, going to push back and say, Chael, that's not our standard. Now, they've got a contract. It's got exclusivity. We had Dana White on, and this is what he said. So you asked me a trick question. Can he box somewhere? Can he do it? Can we wake up on Mars? Every statement's true if you say the word can, and then you cut me off partway through. He cannot get signed and will not get signed by Eddie Hearn, by Bob Arum, by meaningful people within boxing who we would expect. It's like a guy says, I want to go and do WrestleMania. Well, if Vince won't sign you, I'm sure you can go do wrestling somewhere else. It's not the same thing that we're talking about. And the answer to your question is no. He will not get signed with your likely suspects if you don't have a multi-fight deal.
So how do you do it on Saturday?
Because you lack significance.
So how do you do it on Saturday?
You lack significance. The fight has got to be about something.
So how did he do it on Saturday?
How did Francis do?
Yeah, no, how did he do it? How did he have a fight on Saturday against Tyson Fury without signing to a promoter?
Well, first off, you had a sanction by the WBC whose president sat in the front row but didn't put the title up. I mean, not for nothing. You had a lot of really weird things here.
Sure.
You had a promoter who saw that this was going to be a loss, but it's someone else writing it. And it's important that you understand this.
You didn't answer my question. Can you answer my question? How did he do it on Saturday?
I am answering it for you. I'm answering it in more
WBC is a sanctioning body. They're not a promoter.
You can't get this kind of detail anywhere.
WBC is a sanctioning body.
That's like trying to tell me that Logan Paul and Mayweather fought. And I'll go, well, prove it. Show me on the boxing stats where it's at. You go, well, it was an exhibition. I mean, if we're going to play your game, we're going to keep putting weird pieces in place. There's no
how
point
did he do this without signing to promote? Your whole premise here is that he needs to sign with a promoter for 3 fights in order to.
Ariel, excuse me. This wasn't done through a promoter. It was done through an entity who openly lost money and was willing to do it. You keep changing the rules.
And why can't that be the next fight? Why can't that be the case for the next fight? And Francis goes and laughs to the bank. They seem very happy to partake in this business arrangement.
Excuse me. I didn't know we were operating in make-believe world. I thought you brought an expert in me on, not to think about what could be, to talk about realistically, per the standard of the industry that we operate in, what can be done. That's like when you say, well, could have Francis kicked him on Saturday? And I go, no, we can't kick him. It's against the rules. You go, yes, he could. He could have kicked him, but it would have cost him a point. It's like, yeah, I guess.
His
Aaron,
Excellency,
I guess you're right. I didn't
Sheik.
interpret the question like that. I've literally never had you be this kind of stupid before. I'm not using other people's words.
You keep insulting me. You keep insulting me to try to win this argument,
lying.
And I keep proving you wrong and providing facts.
You haven't
His
proved
Excellency,
it once yet,
Turki
Ariel.
Al-Sheikh.
Why was the WBC title not up?
Because Francis.
Why did the WBC Why did the WBC champion fight? Shut up. Why did the WBC champion fight and not put his title up? And tell me another time in heavyweight history that's happened. Don't tell me Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes. Tell me a time that a sitting champion fought and didn't put his belt up in a real sport. Go ahead.
Because originally the WBC's stance on this was that because Francis had no professional boxing fights on his record, his boxing matches on his record, that they would not make this a title fight. That's why it was a 10-round fight, not a 12-round fight. In the end, they came around and and who knows if they got paid by this. And in the end, the British Boxing Board of Control also came on board. But when this was first announced at the very beginning in July, when it was a done deal, they felt like it wasn't a real fight because he had no boxing experience. That's why. And because Alexander Usyk is sitting there as the rightful number one contender, he has to defend against Alexander Usyk. And there is some belief that they only okayed for this to happen because the Usyk fight was going to be announced. And there was some belief that the reason why they announced it before the fight happened, which I criticized them for, was because the other sanctioning body, I believe it's the IBF, said, if you don't announce this fight by this day, we are going to strip everyone and we're not going to be involved. So this has to be the next fight. And so these are some of the reasons why it wasn't originally, and these are some of the reasons why eventually they came around, in my opinion. So again, the part that I don't understand about your stance is you keep saying by the standard, by the standard. What I'm trying to tell you is the Saudis are a new standard. And so we had the gentleman who made this fight, Turki Al-Sheikh, His Excellency. He came on the show. He demanded to be on the show on Monday from his palace in Saudi Arabia. He says, I see a lot of jabronis on the internet, but you're the one that I need to talk to because you're number one. You got 13 trophies that back up that statement. And I have an offer on the table for Francis Ngannou to come back to Saudi Arabia. There it is. It's right there. From my show. Did you miss that part? Did you miss that segment? You keep quoting other segments and misinterpreting them. Did you miss that one? That was the biggest one. That's the most powerful man in combat sports right now.
Everything that you just laid out, while being accurate, is against standards of the industry.
Oh,
for somebody, if they wanted to be strategic, they wanted to sit down with a manager or an agent and or a promoter and try to lay out a viable and reasonable plan. Each thing that you said is one-offs. It's never happened before. And you're saying they're the new player and they're setting the new rules. If there was a consistency and they were going each a week and a person could make a living and have a job to do, I don't know that I would disagree with you. It'd still be a really weird point.
Why do you keep
that you would attempt
hanging
to
on to the standard?
Considering it 72 hours since it happened, it's not like you could possibly be an expert in it, but you are pretending to be. And it's kind of one of these really strange situations. So I'm not sure why you do it. I don't know if you're getting paid or you just feel like his nuts are better to lick than mine. I don't really know why you're doing what you're doing. But there's nothing about that plan that was wise to do. The competition is where the focus should be. The fact that the pay-per-view bombed, we shouldn't even mention. This is a celebration of the fight that happened. And it goes two ways. By the way, when you find yourself, Ariel, every upset you've ever seen in any sport, could be swimming, boxing, every single upset has one thing in common. The athlete that lost, the favorite, found themselves in a situation that was harder than they thought it was going to be. And when Fury found himself in that spot, he regained his discipline. I mean, it was really an incredible thing for him to gut that out and march forward. And then talk about Francis. Not only has he got that power, right? Not only were his strikes so good. Did you see that one where he took an elbow, a straight up illegal, where Fury just tried to cheat, but it's like, I don't care if I get disqualified. It's better than whatever's happening here. Francis didn't even flinch. I must have watched that thing 3 times and go, no, I must be seeing it wrong. It looks like he's hitting him, but Francis doesn't move. In fact, he comes forward. I kept rewinding because I couldn't believe how well Francis took that shot. So if you're talking about from a competitive standpoint, that's the focus of this. you're choosing to try to mislead with an overarching theme of bringing down the promoters, which is what keeps you afloat. I just wish that you wouldn't do
Why?
that. It's misleading and it's
How?
not true.
How are you getting
It
that?
simply isn't true.
I said at the
You
beginning
even
of the
tried to
show.
make a comparison. As weird as this was, I let it go because you just said so many stupid things. But I even let it go where you try to say, and John Jones would have been hurt anyway and pulled off. John Jones got hurt a week ago for a fight that's 2 weeks from now, and the proposed match between Francis and John was 9 months ago. So it was just a weird thing that you did for a reason that I don't really know why you did it.
Francis, you think would have been 100% for that?
I don't think Francis was 100% versus Fury, Ariel.
No,
we don't live on 100%.
He made the walk. He made the walk for that one. The point is, you keep.
That's my point. That's my point is he made the walk.
Yes,
don't try to steal like, all of a sudden you're a tough guy.
He made the walk, and
my point is he made the walk. Who cares
is an
if he did
argument.
100%?
I have thousands of hours of footage over the past 10 months of me saying Francis made the right call. You have thousands of hours of footage saying that he made the wrong call. And I believe ultimately what I'm taking away from this is that you can't say that you were wrong. You can't say that you were wrong. You can't admit for once
what I'm
that you were
taking
wrong.
away is I can't believe how dishonest you're being. I happen to know those thousands of hours, and you spoke about it. When you said Francis did the right thing, you spoke purely from one perspective, which was business, which bombed. I spoke about it from a competitive standpoint. I spoke about it from my respect to boxing that I found out. I mean, this is the second time in my life. Second time.
The 10 million is a bomb?
The greatest in the world got their ass kicked by a guy that's never done it.
How is the 10 million a bomb? How is the 10 million a bomb?
For you to come in and then say there could be up to another 10 million in pay-per-view. Come on, partner, you made stuff up.
How is the 10 million a bomb? How is the 10 million a bomb? How is the 10? There's no UFC fighter on the planet.
You keep trying to assign it. You keep trying to assign it. You've got this real welfare mentality. I didn't know this side of you. How much did you make versus how much were you given are very different conversations. I'm trying to be responsible about this, Ariel. There is not a viable idea when the account goes this way. That's just the truth.
Oh, you think Francis paid
about this
for the event?
Today's conversation should be about the competition. The competition is why Francis, to your point, is going to have another huge fight. The next payday, which is going to be big and will be made and earned, where somebody else will get a profit because of the competition. That's the spirit of today. Francis did a great job, and so did Fury, and we should have made it about competition instead of you trying to damage the bigger guys that you think somewhere around the way wronged you. And you know what, partner?
No.
They probably did. But for you to mislead your audience that was a good business move to let somebody else lose money, but it's what I got. Fair enough, partner.
Now I get
Play
it.
the lottery for your retirement
I get
plan.
it.
Words
I get it.
by Ariel Helwani.
I get what you're doing. I get what you're doing. You don't have the balls to come out and say it, so I'll say it for you. What you're trying to say is that I have a grudge against the UFC and Dana White, and that's why I'm trying to spin this into a narrative that Francis won. You danced around it. You almost tried to say it.
You think I didn't make that clear?
Oh, no, you didn't say it. You didn't say that. You didn't say that. You didn't quite say it.
You think I danced around it?
Oh, you danced around it.
I called you flat the F out on it. What do you mean I danced around?
You didn't have the guts.
I hit you in the face with
you didn't
like
have the
a frying
guts to say it, so I'll say it for you.
I don't have the guts
You didn't have the guts to say
I'm
it.
the one that
Rewind this video
prick.
3 hours ago. Rewind this video 3 hours ago, and I was asked the first question of the day was, should other UFC fighters do this? And I said no. Not only will it not happen, I don't think it's a smart idea, and I don't think it's going to play out the way it did for Francis. Francis is an anomaly, and I even asked Markel that same question. So you think that I have this vendetta against UFC, that I'm going to try to unionize the fighters to go out? It would be incredibly dumb. They don't have they don't have the skills. They don't have the backing. There's not the demand, X, Y, and Z. And yet you are trying to spin this narrative so that you can get a couple of high fives on your YouTube channel later and say, you really stuck it to Ariel. You really exposed him. No, I know the score and I know exactly what happened. Francis Ngannou went out there and bet on himself and got one of the best deals that he could possibly get from the PFL. And then he got it while everyone was shitting on him, including yourself. And let's be honest, you have a grudge against him. You've talked about this. You guys almost came to blows in Dallas. You've talked about this on your YouTube channel. So there's a vendetta there too. There's probably a little bit of a, bad blood between you, and it's probably in your best interest to continue to shit on him. And I understand that. But what you are saying is incredibly, incredibly reckless, because you're ignoring the fact that $10 million is not a win for a guy in the UFC. No one's making $10 million if you're not named Conor McGregor. And then the money he's about to make the next time around, the money he's about to make is going to laugh in the face of everyone in the UFC other than Conor, because he gets to play by a different set of rules. So you can dance around everything you want, but next time, do me a favor, Chael. don't fucking be a don't be a fucking coward and dance around this shit. Say it to my face. Say it to my face like a man, because that's how I know you. Say it to my face and say, no, Ariel, you have a vendetta, you have a bias against the UFC, and that's why you're doing this. Say it to my face. Grow a fucking pair. And I'll say to you, you have a bias and a vendetta against Francis, and you're a company man, and you work for ESPN, and you don't want to upset Big Bad Dana because he's done some really nice things to you over the years. So you have your bias, I have mine. The best part about this story is we know how it played out. Francis won. He didn't have to pay a penny. He didn't have to lose a dime. He got 10 to 20 million. Oh, I can't wait for those numbers to come out. And then he's about to get even more come March whenever he fights again in the kingdom, backed by a guy who doesn't care if he loses another 100 million.
The spirit of today was for us to celebrate the competitiveness of Francis Ngannou, which is what I came here to do. If you want to talk the business side, it's very simple. It lost money, the pay-per-view. You're done right there. You stop right there. If your true intent, Ariel, with your big balls and all your courage, was to celebrate the 10 million that he got, which is all that he got, you would have done that 3 months ago when it was announced.
I did. I'll send you the clip.
Spirit of today,
I'll send you the clip.
Ariel, and the only reason your audience is still watching,
You're lying. You're lying.
Headlines
You're
today
lying, Chael. I did.
I
did it on July 11th.
It has to do
You're a liar.
with the competitiveness.
Okay,
the
Chael.
only reason you're talking
you want
about
to keep
a fight,
lying?
Ariel, you keep cutting me off
because you're lying.
I don't really understand
Chael,
why
you're lying. You are lying.
About what?
I
You
did
dumb
celebrate.
Son. I would strangle you if I was
do
there.
It.
You come and talk to me mouthy like this,
do
you little.
Do it. Do
Ariel,
it. This is like a scene out of your movie,
Mojob
Diamonds.
Because I'm saying you didn't do something.
If
it turned out you did, by the way, it would make me wrong. It would mean that your buddies got it wrong. It wouldn't make it a lie.
Saying it was
you sure didn't invite me over here. I sure was on with you 3 months ago. I've been on with you since this fight was signed, and you never celebrated it. You never talked about the money. And it was so rude what you've done to Francis here today, where you pretend to be his friend, talk about behind someone's back. I'm going to be a coward behind your back, but I almost come to blows with Francis face to face. Do you think those two stories go together, you little weasel?
What are you talking about? You've talked about it on your YouTube channel.
Else about it, Ariel.
Yeah, go ahead.
This is about the celebration of the competition that he had. And when you talk about it, it will parlay you to your next fight. These are wonderful things that I agree with you and that we can have a meaningful conversation on. But this is you taking things back. And to come and ask me when something is done, literally whether this happened or not, of course it did. We're stating facts. I interpret that for me to educate people about the standard of the industry and what could be changed to make it better next time. It's a very rare event. It's a very rare sporting event in my lifetime where it's bigger after the fact.
That's why we can talk about it. That's why I'm asking you about the benefit of hindsight.
The timeline and how it worked. The fact that it was a financial loss while being the biggest and most celebrated after the fact is something that we can learn from. Those are relevant facts that your audience would want to know. They would want to know why today them personally are more excited about this than they were Saturday morning, the day of the fight. Those are interesting things.
Retrospect.
You chose
hindsight.
this to use a way to try to hurt the man. It was weird. I don't know why you did it, Ariel. I don't know why you did it.
I literally said, now that we have the benefit of hindsight and looking back in retrospect, can you concede
Ariel,
that this worked
that's
out?
not what Ariel, you know that wasn't your point. Or we would just do that now. We would we do that all day. What fun would that to be to listen to?
Because now we know how the story plays out.
Ariel. It was filmed and put around the world.
Now he knows how the story plays out. Now he knows how the story plays out.
Things for that reason. You had a different message. And I do resent that you tried to act like I wouldn't say it to your face. You motion, come on over here. That's chicken stuff. I don't do that. I don't do that kind of stuff to you.
You're literally threatening me. You're saying you're going to strangle me, Chael, my own friend.
You called me a liar, Ariel. You called me a liar, which in a worst case, I could be wrong.
Wow.
If I did something and I didn't have an intent, I could be right. You don't give me your friend the benefit of that.
Listen.
You don't give me the benefit that I could have been wrong. You came on and said that it's been reported that he made 10 to 20 million. It was your opening line, which was a lie. So I told you, bring it up. I don't care if it's a thread by an anonymous source on the underground forum. I told you I would accept it, but I told you it wasn't out there and you didn't actually read it and you didn't do it. You had to cop to the lie that you were the one that said it.
Yeah.
10 to 20 million is 100% difference. It's not a prediction.
Well, I don't know what the numbers are. That's why I asked you. We could go back. How do I know?
You know the pay-per-view.
How do I know? I don't work for the worldwide leader. I don't work for them. Man. I don't have an inside source. And by the way,
you're a weirdo.
By the way, you are a liar because
and
you
a dishonest one, which I didn't know.
You tweeted on Saturday that you were at the event, and we just found out you weren't at the event. Was that not a lie, or
did I say that to you today?
No,
did I say
but
those words
there's a habit of lying.
And how are you bringing it in?
Because you tweeted that.
How are you bringing it in?
So there's a habit. There's a habit.
But how
There's
would
a
you bring
precedent.
that in?
There's
We're
a
having a
history.
debate about today what we said. I didn't say these things to you today.
What are you talking
Why
about?
would you bring that? Should I
Because
bring up things
if
that I
you
know
lied
about you outside of the interview?
No,
Is that what we should do to figure out who the weasel is versus who the tough guy is? Should we start doing that to each other?
I didn't bring up a single thing that you haven't said publicly.
Why don't we just call it? Why don't we? This is the road to nowhere. There was two things to observe. There was a competitiveness that was amazing.
It was.
There was a business side that wasn't viable. That's the truth. One wasn't viable and one was surprisingly competitive. I came here to celebrate the good, not only with Francis, but with Tyson. You came here to tell a message to Dana White, which missed, like it always. I got to go. I hate hanging up. That's what punks do. But I got to go, man.
That's
You're
a weasel
disgusting.
move. That's a weasel move.
And
That's
you're
a
weak,
weasel
Ariel.
move.
You're disgusting
That's a weasel
and weak.
move. I'll stand here. You're trying to leave.
Weasel.
You're trying to leave, and you keep insulting me. You keep insulting.
Bring on the
insults. Bring on the insults.
And then you call me the liar.
Some friend. You did lie.
You opened this by saying that it did 10 to 20 million, as reported. You could have said, I'm guessing, I think, but you didn't. You lied. This is your opening line. I'm not going back, Ariel, like you tried to do with things out of a different place that nobody here as your audience, our jury, can see. I went back to your first line. Your opening line to me, you lied.
Oh,
I called you out. You got caught lying. You said it did 10 to 20, and you said it was reported.
Yes, by me. By me. By me. By me.
And you're a little
by
weasel.
me.
Goodbye, Ariel.
Keep insulting. Yeah, there he is. What a freaking bitch move that is. I'll throw an insult his way too. Thanks for watching. We appreciate it very much. Hey, if you like this video, give us the old thumbs up. Subscribe as well. You could get many more of these videos on the channel, so please do that. We would love you forever if you did so.